BBC Radio York.
We're having a chat this morning about the changes that we need to make to the way we live to help the environment, and what changes you're making, if you're making any at all. Tonight is the first meeting of a new committee set up in York to help the city meet the challenge of the climate emergency that was declared earlier this year. In Scarborough, the council was one of the first in the country to declare a climate emergency. Former Green Party councillor Mark Vesey was instrumental in that declaration being made. I'm so pleased to say he's on the line. Morning, Mark.
Good morning.
Look, you declared that climate emergency and yet you stood down from the Green Party. What's happened?
I didn't stand down from the Green Party. I stood down as a councillor.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm still with the Green Party. I'm green all the way through. I'll never get rid of that.
So why did you stand down as a councillor?
Because it's very frustrating. As you'll know, all local councils are really stretched. The staffing has been cut hugely over the last few years, and the budgets. Scarborough's had to make £2 million worth of savings every year for the last 3 or 4 years, and has to for the next 3 or 4 years. So all the stuff are really, absolutely stretched to the maximum. So adding a climate emergency policy to their workload of already delivering all the things they have to do, roads, social services, schools, you name it, it just kind of adds, an extra burden to them. So they're going to do the best they can, but it will be a very slow road, unfortunately.
And probably why the council in York have set the climate emergency, the carbon footprint to 2030, trying to get carbon neutral. By then it gives them plenty of time. What kind of changes is Scarborough considering making then?
At the minute, it's really sort of tinkering around the edges. They're talking about any new housing having electric car charging points, investigating how the council itself can reduce its CO2. They have done quite well up until last year. I think we had a sustainability group, and the council changed all the boilers in all the council buildings, so we've got A-rated boilers, cutting our gas consumption. Obviously, street lighting has gone LED in most places. And they've planted 3,000 trees last year as well. So they're doing little bits, which is great, but it's, in my opinion, it's just not enough to avoid this 2 degrees of warming within 10 years. We've got to fundamentally change the way we run our societies. Like you're talking about growing food locally. Why are we importing food from across Europe? 10,000 trucks a day coming across the port of Dover, bringing us salad and tomatoes. That's got to stop. We've got to grow our own and be much more,
self-sufficient, I suppose.
Yes, yeah. I was just looking up this morning. We use 1.6 million barrels of oil a day in Britain. 1.6 million barrels. Every one of those is producing CO2. We can't go on like that. If we're going to cut our CO2, we've got to radically change the way we organise our society and our lives.
How frustrating is it that progress is so slow? I mean, you've clearly voted with your feet standing down as a councillor, but, generally, how frustrating is it?
Very, 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 very. We've had 3 years of Brexit talks, haven't we? Brexit is a trade deal, and we can't even agree that. How on earth are we going to stop 1 million people flying every day? There's 1 million air passengers every day. 90% of our homes in Britain are heated by gas. That's got to change. We eat 2 million burgers a day in Britain. That's got to change. We've got such big challenges ahead of us. It's got to come from central government down to local government, and it's great we all do our own little bit. I recycle my water here. I use my bike every day. We're all trying, but there's 7 billion of us on the planet. We've got to have bigger changes and faster, I think, in my opinion.
I suppose it comes down to the fact that maybe we're not caring enough.
Certainly, if you looked at it cynically, we've got one Green MP, Caroline Lucas, in a parliament of 650. So that kind of shows you how interested people are in green issues. But my real hope is we've got a young generation coming up. The 2 girls you spoke to earlier on.
Amy and Chloe.
Brilliant. And this Greta Thunberg that sailed across to America. The young people are getting it, and hopefully they'll, push the changes on, because it's their generation that really will suffer, I think, if we don't do something.
Technology has changed, our lives have changed, the way we live our lives has changed. It makes you think that maybe we should step back, make do and mend, all those little things that our era were doing, darning our socks, sewing up ladders in our tights, stuff like that. And it just doesn't happen now, does it, Mark?
Absolutely. It's very hard to go back. I mean, I feel very privileged to have lived through this era. I've got a smartphone here. I can talk to anybody in the world. I can order anything in the world and it arrives at my door the next day. I won't do that, but it can do it. Young people haven't ever even used a phone box. They don't know. It's going to be really hard to go back, isn't it? We've got so used to click and collect, and it arrives the next day. A van drives all the way from York or somewhere to Scarborough to deliver a package. It can't go on like that. It's too good to be true, and it really is.
You've just taken me back to opening a telephone box and the whiff of cigarettes and whatever else was in there. I mean, it just hit your nostrils big time, Mark. Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show this morning. Really appreciate it. Mark Vesey there, he's from our Scarborough studio. He's a former Green Party councillor and instrumental in the declaration being made for Scarborough Council to declare a climate emergency. We'd love to know about your